Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. Gonna do a collection update today. The last couple that I've done have consisted solely of records that were released in the 70s and 80s. I'm going to keep it current this time around. Every record I show today is one that was released in 2022. I'm also going to apologize in advance. During the course of this video, you may hear chaos. About a month ago, I had to unexpectedly have one of my cats euthanized, which was the fucking worst thing ever. But in the last few days, I've had a new cat gonna make her way into my home, and she's a bit of a handful. She is the source of limitless energy. She can jump 36 feet straight up, and she does not respect boundaries in any way, shape, or form, which of course does not jive with my other cat. So during the course of this video, you may hear hissing, growling, scuffling, explosions, gunshots. You may see a cat fly across here because that's what she does. It's anybody's guess, really. So bear with me. Let's just talk about some records and get through this as best we can. We'll start her off with a new release on Iron Lung Records. It's the Mental Distancing Flexi by Iron Lung. I've talked about Iron Lung here before. They're fairly well known, so I'm sure most of you are familiar with them. If you're not, Iron Lung is a two-piece consisting of a drummer and a guitar player. They're based out of Seattle, Washington, and they play what I would consider to be like textbook power violence. Like, they're angry, they're fast, they're discordant, and they're unrelenting. The recordings always have this kind of they're a really tight band, but the recordings always have this really kind of a contained feel to it. Like, if you were to open a can of power violence, this is the noise it would make when you open the can. On here you get two originals and a cover of Only Human by Rudimentary Peni. The cover has a guest vocalist in the form of Heather Goebel, who apparently is in an industrial band from Chicago called Hyde. I'm unfamiliar with them, but regardless, she does a bang-up job here. So, yeah, new Iron Lung. If you've never heard them and you're into power violence, yeah, get on it. Next up, another band I've discussed here before, a band from Sweden called Paranoid. This is the Tatari single. It's on PND Records. This band puts out a lot of records. I have a ton of their stuff, and I'm still not even close to having all of it. This is like driving, Swedish hardcore with both feet firmly planted in traditional heavy metal. These guys can play. They're not afraid to show off a little bit. I would say, like, if you crossed, like, something like Totalitar with another one of those kind of metallic Swedish bands like Skit Kids, and then threw in a healthy dose of heavy metal, it would sound like Paranoid. They're not reinventing the wheel as far as their sound goes on this record. I didn't really expect them to, because they have their sound nailed down, so, you buy a new Paranoid record, you kind of know what to expect. But it's good enough. It's solid shit. Good band. Good live band. They played Toronto a few years back, and I was lucky enough to check them out. They were fantastic. So yeah, Paranoid. Next, we're going to Eastern Canada, to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. A band called Mutated Void. This is the Slash the Altar EP that was just released on Suicide Records. This is really good. It's really noisy, feedback-laden, modern, DIY hardcore. There's a bit of a crossover feel to it. The vocals actually remind me at times of like Animosity era Corrosion of Conformity, like, except they're a little more over the top. Like, imagine, if you will, the recording session for COC's Animosity record. You got Mike Dean. He's stepping up to do the vocals. He's got no socks on. he steps on a piece of Lego on the floor and starts doing vocals. That's what it sounds like. Like he's just super pissed off, slightly hurt, totally surprised, and it comes out. It translates, perfectly to the recording. That's what this is like. They just released a 12-inch on Iron Lung, which I have coming to me, but it's not here yet. So once it gets here, you'll be the first to know. But until then, pick this fucking record up because it is great. Mutated Void. There'll be links below for all this shit so you can check it out. This was the pre-release version. Like, it comes on purple vinyl. I'm not going to show it because I don't feel like it. But it came with a copy of Concrete Flower Volume 2, which is just a photocopied zine dealing with skateboard culture. I don't know if they all come with this, but mine did. All right, moving on to another awesome band, Warthog. This is the self-titled 7-inch on Toxic State. Warthog, of course, from New York City. Dirty, gritty, just genuinely angry hardcore punk. Hoarse vocals. Occasionally sounds like he's vomiting, which I appreciate. This band, it kind of surprised me. Their sound has, I guess, kind of matured. Like, they've got a much more full sound now in comparison to the way they started out. Now, like a lot of times when a band matures, it doesn't sit well with me because I don't like change a whole lot. But in this case, it works. And every time they put something new out, I'm equally impressed by it. So, yeah, Warthog, check that shit out. Another fantastic live band. I've seen them a few times. Every time they killed it. One time they almost killed me. Some wayward fucking mosh guy came out and elbowed me and broke my rib. So that fucking sucked, but that'll learn me. So yeah, Warthog, get this shit. Okay, stepping away from hardcore for a second and going local. I got a band here from London, Ontario. My friends Rob and Dave, they play in this band. Band's called Mononegatives. They stopped by my place, dropped off a couple of their new records because they've been putting tons of records out lately. Both of these ones are on Dowd Records. The first one is called Counterclockwise Interjection. And the second is called New Exit in Shards. You can see both the covers are pretty similar. I guess this is going to be like a 4-record series, and when they're done, all 4 records can be put together and they'll make like a puzzle or something like that. Now, Mononegatives, weirdo synth punk band. I kind of base all synth punk down to the lowest common denominator, which is always Devo. Like, it all stems from Devo, in my opinion. These guys, they've got there's definitely, a Devo influence to it, but they kind of cover the gamut as far as synth punk goes. Like, some of it sounds like Devo, some of it goes off in a Depeche Mode direction, some of it goes off in more of like a 90s or early 2000s garage punk kind of direction. Like, they got their hand in everything. I kind of like New Exit and Shards the best. It might actually be my favorite Mononegatives material so far because they kind of rev it up and it's almost got kind of a hardcore thing going at times. Like, not super crazy, but it's just a little faster and a little harder. But yeah, I mean, it's weirdo synth punk with what sounds like a bunch of fucking robots doing vocals. If you're into that kind of stuff, then definitely check out Mononegatives. We got tons of shit out right now, so you shouldn't have a hard time finding records by them. Great bunch of dudes, too. All right, now we're staying local, but we're going to big records. Another one from London, Ontario. Mall Crimes. You Embarrass Me. It's 12-inch. It's on Cursed Blessings Records. I showed their tape a while back. Been waiting for this to come out for a while. Went to the record release show and picked this up. Great people, great record. They got really good production on this. Like, Laurie's bass cuts through just perfectly. The drums sound great. Patrick's guitar sounds great. Jill's vocals sound great. I mean, the whole thing's just well-rounded from a production standpoint. I'm super impressed with how with how much more confident Jill sounds with her vocals. She's got this, like, she kind of alternates between, like, talking parts and screaming parts, but her approach to doing vocals, it's kind of like she's scolding, patronizing, and mocking you all at once, which is fantastic. The guitars, they kind of have this, like, almost like a noise rock thing going in the background, like something like, maybe off like Amphetamine Reptile Records or something. But at times there's also a bit of an early 80s like new wave feel, like, new wave in the way of, like, say, early Blondie and that kind of stuff. I get that feel off of it occasionally. Not overwhelmingly so, but I detect it there. They use repetition. I said this last time when I talked about their tape, but they use repetition to their advantage. Like, there's a powerful kind of a building repetition to their verse parts, and then the chorus just kind of explodes, and then it goes right back into the build up and repetition again. Very, very good. I'm kind of blown away by how good this record actually sounds. Like, I knew it would be cool, and they're friends of mine, so I'm obviously going to be favorable. But yeah, this thing fucking rules. And they've been playing tons of shows lately, so they're only getting better. So yeah, definitely check out Mvll. I will put a link in the description below. So order the record. If you have a hard time finding it, let me know, and I will find one for you. Mvll. Next, a band from Boston, and I will be surprised if this doesn't make everyone's best of 2022 list, because everybody's talking about it. Savageheads, Service to Your Country. Like I said, from Boston, this is on Social Napalm Records. Members of this band have been in a million other bands. Most notably for me would be Hounds of Hate and Peacebreakers, because both those bands are great. This is kind of tough sounding hardcore punk. No metal to it at all, just straight up hardcore punk. But there's a heavy, like, street punk influence. And by street punk, I'm talking like Oi. I'm not talking like fucking Casualties and that kind of shit. It's catchy, but it's not too over the top with melody. It's just right. Every song on this is great. It's totally catchy, totally memorable. Like I said, I will be surprised if this doesn't make, like, everyone's, best of 2022 list. Good fucking record. Savageheads. We got another release on Iron Lung here. It's a British band called Bad Breeding. It's Human Capital. Was lucky enough to see this band just before the pandemic hit, and they were amazing. Everything I've heard by them is great. This is an updated contemporary version of, 80s UK anarcho-punk. This just sounds like, the UK Subhumans or, Conflict, or occasionally like Crass, just kind of listened or viewed through, a 2022 lens. Very, very good. There's they do really well with, like, background noise. Like, there's a lot of the songs have that kind of weird swirling quality that I speak of now and again. Very, very good band. But yeah, if you're into, like, UK anarcho-punk, like, all that early 80s stuff, Flux of Pink Indians and, Icons of Filth and Conflict and all that shit, you'll probably like Bad Breeding. So check it out. There's another Iron Lung record. It's a band from Singapore. Doldrey. What the hell is this one called again? Celestial Deconstruction. I'm pretty sure that's the singer. The vocals sound like he's, screaming from, the depths of the fucking earth. The vocals occasionally, like, they kind of lean towards death metal without actually quite, hitting death metal. Earlier releases are way more death metal than this one, but he's still very, very guttural and kind of cavernous. The vocals, or the music rather, it's more like 1-2 1-2 1-2, like modern punk than earlier releases by them. Super good. I guess it kind of shows their versatility for doing different styles and stuff. Members of this are in another band called Zod, who sound a lot like this record. But like I said, not as death metal as their earlier stuff that I've heard. But this is a perfect mix of of punk and almost death metal. And it's from Singapore, so check that shit out. Doldrey. Buy all their records, because everything I've got by them is great. Now we're going to a band from Portland, a long-standing band from Portland. That being Hellshock. This is their self-titled 7-inch Some Blackwater. I saw them a couple months ago in Toronto. I've had this record since then. I just haven't shown it. This is the limited version of it. It's just got an extra slip-over cover. It's number 176 out of 200, but that's what the record looks like, you know, when you get just a regular copy of it. Definitely like a real crust band, not like, you know, just a bunch of like squeegee punks on the street that are in a band. You're like, they're a crust band. It's like, no, this is like, you know, crust the way it was supposed to be. It's like heavy, guttural, but this leans a lot more towards death metal than anything by Hellshock I've heard before. It kind of sounds like Doom, like the UK Doom, not the Japanese Doom, but like the UK Doom mixed with like Bolt Thrower when they were just making the transition to death metal. Vocals almost, you know, they got kind of a Barney Greenway thing to them now and again, which I didn't expect, because they've, you know, any stuff I've heard before this was just straight up like crusty hardcore stuff without as much of an abundant kind of metal influence. But they were great live, and certainly captured my attention. I'm glad I got this. So yeah, Hellshock. Self-titled, Blackwater. And the last one is another banger that'll probably make everyone's best of 2022 list. Self-released 12-inch by Nightfeeder. It's called Cut Off All of Your Face. And it pretty much will cut off all of your face. This is Jay Styles from Disrupt and State of Fear, so you already got that working for you. You can definitely pick his vocals up, or pick his vocals out. Like, it's definitely him. He's got a very unique sound to him. This leans more towards State of Fear than towards Disrupt. Like, it's like there's no real grindcore influence to it. This is, you know, kind of like if Disrupt got rid of the grindcore kind of feel that they had and replaced it with like that sweeping almost D-beat thing like Tragedy or whatever. Super, super good. Kind of runs a little short for my liking, even though it probably doesn't. It's just that good. Pat over at Ground Zero Salem, he did a bit more of a deep dive. He was, you know, much better at describing it than I am, so find the video he talks about it and check that out. But until then, order this fucking thing while you can before it disappears. So yeah, Nightfeeder, Cut Off All of Your Face. Awesome, angry, modern, sweeping, kind of D-beat, kind of Disrupt hardcore. Nightfeeder, out of Seattle. Okay, yeah, I guess that's it. So I'm going to go referee these cats. See you next time.